So I heard about this rabbi who liked to go to the horse races. And he didn't have any luck. He was losing. He was going crazy. And then all of a sudden the rabbi noticed a priest that he quietly went into the tracks and went to one of the horses before the race and gives the horse a blessing. And the horse wins the race. So the rabbi said, hello, there is something going on here. So before the next race, the priest goes again to the tracks and he gives a blessing to another horse. So the rabbi runs to place a bet on a small one because he wasn't sure, and he won. I said, okay, I like that. So he started following this priest before every race, and he was betting to all those horses, and they were winning. And it was the time for the last race. So he got all his earnings. He goes to an ATM, and he takes all his life savings, and he's waiting for the priest. So the priest goes to one horse, and the priest gives the blessing, and then touch the eyes, the ears, and the hoofs. The rabbi plays all that money. The race starts, and that horse drops dead in the middle of the race. The rabbi was furious. He wants to talk to the priest at the end. He said, what's going on here? I saw you. Race after race, you were giving a blessing to all the horses, and they were winning. At the last one, I lost all my savings. The priest said, you know what? That's the problem with you Jews. You don't know the difference between the blessing and the final rites. Okay, I want to talk to you today about predict my future. Can you predict my future? Can you predict the future? And I'm talking about this because this has been something that I think humanity has been fascinated with from the beginning of times. We were always fascinated with trying to predict the future. That's why you will always hear about fortune tellers, psychics, mediums, and all sort of things. They were part of humanity forever because humanity always wanted to know the future. Humanity always wanted to know what is going to happen to us tomorrow, right? And I tried to find numbers for Canada. It's very difficult, very difficult. So I did find some numbers from the United States, I guess close enough, that it's mesmerizing. They say that the psychic industry in the United States is been growing 1.5% for the last 5 years, and they are predicting that it's going to generate 2.3 billion for the year 2023. The psychic industry. I think it's crazy. 2.3 billion. And they also realize that about 15% of Americans consult with some sort of psychic or fortune teller on a regular basis to help them make their decisions. I say, whoa, I wish we can have the numbers for Canada. And I'm pretty sure when I come from Argentina, these numbers, except for the money they make, but how many people consult psychics and fortune tellers is way higher than that. But I realized that this is not something new. This is something that humanity is being involved with for generations and generations. Why is that? Because again, people want something to help them to make the right decisions, to have it easier in life, or maybe even to have an edge or a magical shortcut to success, right? And that brings me to this week's Parsha. Not the one the part that we read today, but Leslie read. I didn't read it. But also because we have a triennial cycle of Sharizedek, so there is always a part that we don't read, but it's part of the Parsha nevertheless. There is a part here that comes just after that is talking about the king of Moab. His name was Balak. And because he heard that the Jewish people was coming towards his land, he was freaking out. And he didn't know what to do to stop the Israelites. So what his brilliant idea was to go and hire Bilam. Who was Bilam? He was a wizard. He was someone who actually, he describes himself, Bilam, in the Parsha, the one who can see the future. And he was famous because all his blessings will become a reality and all his curses will become a reality, will come to be. So what happened is Balak wanted to hire Bilam to curse the Jewish people. Because I guess Balak realized that these Jewish people, they were blessed by God. So he needed somebody to curse them. So if that blessing for God will be neutralized by a curse, so maybe the Moabites will have a chance to defeat the Jewish people in the battlefield. Okay? So, which is interesting because that kept me thinking, what does Judaism believe about what we just read in this parsha? Is that possible? Is it possible, or is it reasonable, or we should actually do it? We should try to find somebody like Bilam and go and ask such person about the future, or ask that person to curse someone, or ask that person to give you a special blessing so you will have a different outcome? What do we believe about fortune tellers and psychics? And I thought it was interesting. So I did a little research and I went to the Talmud. And I was shocked to discover that the Talmud actually discusses this topic at great length. And it starts, for example, by saying that people's character, it will be affected by the day of the week where you are born. Okay? And it even goes to give some examples. But it's interesting because then after the Talmud gives some examples, they come other rabbi says, oh, really? But what about this, and this? That seems to be all the opposite. And then another rabbi said, well, it's not really the day of the week, it's the hour of the day. That you're born, so you can be born in the same day, but different hour, and the outcome, your character will be different. And it's pages and pages and pages, until at the very end, the rabbi seems to agree into something. Number one, they say that yes, there is some kinds of astrological influence into people. And you know how that's called? Mazal. Have you ever heard that word? Mazal? We said Mazal Tov, right? What does it mean, Mazal Tov? Where it's coming from, the Talmud discusses that at length. It said Mazal Tov is a wish that you say to somebody when you are wishing someone, may the stars be aligned in such a way that it will be beneficial or favorable for you. That's why we say Mazal Tov. So Mazal Tov doesn't really mean congratulations. Mazal Tov means good luck, basically. That's the way how the expression was invented. Mazal Tov means good luck, but in the sense, may the stars be aligned. But you know what is fascinating? That at the end of all the discussions, and at the end, they said Mazal and blah, 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 the rabbis said the people of Israel does not have Mazal. What does it mean, does not have Mazal? It means that we don't have luck? No, we just discussed that that's not what it means at all. Jewish people doesn't have Mazal. It means that we don't have to be influenced but whatever the stars have to say. That is a misconception. In fact, I have a quote here that Rabbi Yochanan said in the Talmud, quoting the prophet Jeremiah. And this is what he quoted. Said the Lord, do not learn the ways of the nations, and be not discouraged at the signs of heaven. In other words, what he says, if we start trying to figure out what is going to happen by looking at the stars, asking fortune tellers, etc., said the risk is that you're going to be discouraged. And it's not going to have, it's not good for us to do that. But there is more. There is more. And this is when I believe things got very clear for the Jewish people and why we should not do that. This is not a Jewish thing. And we have to go all the way back to Abraham. Remember the time when God promised Abraham about a descendant. And the way God said is, go outside, and look at the stars. Why would God say that? Go out and look at the stars. I said, you see, if we can count them, that's the way your descendant is going to be. But immediately after, it says that it wasn't even night. It said it was still when the sun was still shining on the sky. It's like 2-3 verses after that. So how is that possible? So, in other words, what the rabbis understand here, and I think it's fascinating, he said, Abraham, up to this point, you were looking at the stars, and the stars were telling you that there is no way for you to have a son. But now God said to Abraham, go outside. Forget about the stars. The stars are not going to tell you anything. And you know what is the next verse after that? It says, Abraham had faith in God. So, in other words, this is the thing. Either you have faith on the stars or you have faith in God, but you cannot have both. And at that day, Abraham, who grew up in a culture that probably were trying to understand the stars all the time, understood that the Jewish way is not putting our faith in fortune tellers, psychics, or the stars, but to put our faith in God. And I understand sometimes we are tempted to try to find a magical shortcut or a magical answer that it will give you an edge. But the rabbis are very clear that there is nothing in this world that can replace hard work and faith in God. Shabbat Shalom.